In this installment, we're going to be going over Wild Card Weekend Sunday slate here. We have some great matchups between the Dolphins and the Bills, the New York Giants going up against the Minnesota Vikings, and the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chef D, and I'm here to give you the winning ingredients for your Sunday slate for Wild Card Weekend. We have the playoffs kicking off, and we have outstanding matchups. Dolphins against the Bills, Giants against the Vikings, and the Bengals going up against the Baltimore Ravens. But before I deep dive into this very good Sunday slate, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetJetsD. Don't forget about that TikTok at chef_D91. And don't forget about the Patreon. That's what you're looking at right now in the background. If you join the Patreon, you got a killer play here. I was on the underdog Orlando Magic. They were +9 underdogs going up against the Portland Trailblazers. I had them on the money line. I gave that out as a selection. Highly encourage that. And the Magic came through, all right? 109 to 106. That was a great play right there. Also, like the Clippers, and I paired that with the point line of the Magic just in case that they didn't win. They would at least probably cover. That came through. And then I liked the OKC Thunder. They covered that +2, 111 to 112 in that particular game. So, guys, you need to get ready for NBA. You guys need to get ready for these NFL playoff games this week. And if you want winning picks, you got to sign up to that Patreon. That link and all the links will be provided down below. Starting off with the quarterback position, we are going to start at the top with Josh Allen. All right, this is safe to say this is going to be my favorite quarterback of the slate. All right, highly owned. Yes, we'll find some other gems, but Josh Allen here, a motivated Buffalo Bills team in a home game in Buffalo. It's going to be wild. It's going to be ruckus. And then you got to factor in the Miami Dolphins are going to be starting a third string quarterback. Yes, they're going to probably most likely start out tough and feisty, but it's going to give way. That second, third quarter kicks in. Josh Allen's going to turn it up, and we should be looking at a high 25+ point fantasy production day from Josh Allen in this particular game. If we want to look at stats, that's going to back me up as well. The Miami Dolphins, the past couple weeks going in this stretch that came into these playoffs, they have been poor, right? 24th overall, 27th in the red zone, 258 passing yards a game, 1.7 TDs. That does not bode well when you're going up against Josh Allen, top tier quarterback in the league. Like I said, highly motivated. Josh Allen is going to be one of a lock for Sunday at 7,900. All right. Could there be other ways to get to the top of the leaderboard? Let's see, all right? The next quarterback we're going to talk about, Joe Burrow, 6,900. I'm a little bit lower on Joe Burrow here, all right? Now, when I break down these things, I'm going to touch on everyone, but I'm going to give you my leans. If you listen and pay attention, I'm going to give you my leans on certain specific players, all right? So it pays to listen and follow throughout the whole entire video. So Joe Burrow, I'm going to be a little bit down on him. Going up against an opponent in the Baltimore Ravens, division matchup here, they are very, very comfortable seeing Joe Burrow, all right? So we look at Joe Burrow, what he did in Week 18. They benched a lot of their defensive players and offensive players, and Joe Burrow did struggle, all right? So in most of these games that he's starting against AFC North opponents, he's had his worst quarterback ratings this year, all right? So against Baltimore, 81 point QB rating. If we continue to go down lower, against Cleveland, 85, all right? Against Pittsburgh earlier in the season, he had one of his worst performances, 61.7, and that with the QB rating, had 4 interceptions in that game. Earlier in the season in Week 5 at 82.7 QB rating. These are lower QB ratings, less efficient from Joe Burrow. That's what we expect when you get in division matchups. You see a very familiar opponent. That's why I'm leaning a little bit away from Joe Burrow at his price at 6,900. I see this game as an under. They got the over under total at 40.5. So not going to be a lot of points in this game. We don't know if it's going to be Lamar Jackson. We don't know if it's going to be Tyler Huntley. We're going to wait on news. That's probably going to come either Friday or 100% guarantee on Sunday. All right. We have to watch the practice news, and I'll get into Lamar Jackson a little bit, just a little bit. All right. So Joe Burrow, he's going to be bumped down. I love Josh Allen, but Joe Burrow in that Cincinnati Bengals game, I see that as an under type of game. You don't want to be looking for assets in that environment. All right. Next guy we're going to talk about will be Lamar Jackson. Okay. Now, he did not practice on Wednesday, so he has 2 more opportunities. We have Thursday and we have Friday. If he gets a limited in on one of those 2 days, that opens up the option for him on Sunday. That's most likely going to happen. They're trying to make sure he stays away as long as possible. And hopefully he'll be fine for that game Sunday. Not to mention, they need Tyler Huntley if Lamar Jackson is out as well. So both of these guys, this is the game I'm talking about, Baltimore and Cincinnati. It's going to be very defensive minded. We're going to lean on that running game and defense. That's going to be huge in this game, okay? If you're looking at that score in that game, just to be 100% honest with you, that game was 27-16. And late in that fourth quarter was a fumble recovery for a touchdown. That game should have been 20-16, and the Bengals were facing backups. All right, so like this is what I'm talking about. It's gonna be a very ugly, nasty game. I want to stay away from both quarterbacks in that environment. If Lamar Jackson does play, I'm gonna stay away from him in that as well. It's gonna be his first game back. It's gonna be a boost to the morale of the team, but fantasy wise, it's gonna be very, very sketchy. All right, I don't want to trust that. I think we can bank on the Giants in Minnesota in that game environment, or just Josh Allen, period, and make it to the top tournaments. Okay, so next quarterback going down, we're going to go to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins here is in a game against these New York Giants. Secondary has been subpar. And defensive line wise, they are getting a little bit healthier. Hopefully Leonard Williams plays. That's going to be a boost to the New York Giants. They are getting healthier in the secondary as well, but this is a different monster here. Okay. Kirk Cousins has elite weapons. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne, Dalvin Cook. All these, this is going to be very hard for the Giants to keep up with the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins had a field day against the Giants in Week 16. As you can see, they won that game with 34 for 48, almost 300 yards passing, and he had 3 TDs from Kirk Cousins, 24 fantasy points. If we're looking at someone other than Josh Allen, I believe that Kirk Cousins is the guy that can bring us to the promised land. If we're looking at stats, currently the Giants are 17th overall and 22nd in the red zone. So we got to watch out for that. Kirk Cousins is in a good spot. He has the weapons to do so. I like him as a cheaper option other than Josh Allen at that QB position at 5,900. All right. Another cheap quarterback we can look at. So we got 3 quarterbacks here that we can look at in our player pool. Daniel Jones is going to be the other guy. All right. In that game against the Minnesota Vikings, they forced Daniel Jones to throw the ball 42 times, all right? That's not like him, all right? They do not throw the ball a lot. With the Giants in this offense, it's a lot of short passes, and they're going to lean on that running game with Saquon Barkley, all right? But the upside here with Daniel Jones is if things get out of hand, they're going to force Daniel Jones to make some plays with his arm and his leg. So we have some upside here as the little Josh Allen light here with Daniel Jones to get fantasy points, passing the ball and rushing the ball. In that game against Indianapolis Colts, he had 91 yards rushing, 2 TDs. So that is a positive to see. In that previous game against Minnesota, he only had 34 rushes. He was efficient with his carries. He took advantage of the opportunities, but he did fumble the ball as well. So ball handling situations, that's okay. You might get a couple minuses there, but the upside with Daniel Jones is still there, right? So at 5,600, if we're looking at quarterbacks under 6K, I want to lean towards that game with Minnesota and the New York Giants. That game should be an over game, a back and forth type of environment between those two teams, okay? If we continue to go down, do we have anyone else? I already spoke about Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley. We want to stay away from both of those quarterbacks, and I'm leaning away from Joe Burrow as well. And then Skylar Thompson, right, at 4,800. You'd have to have crazy cojones if you're playing him. All right, we've seen poor performances from him when he had opportunities to start. And this is the Buffalo Bills at home. Buffalo Bills oddly have been struggling against wide receivers, if we want to look at that. So quarterbacks, if we want to follow that, they've been 14th and 6th overall, but wide receivers, they've been a little bit worse. So if we're looking at Tyreek Hill and we're looking at Jalen Waddle, maybe they have a shot. Maybe one of those two goes off and they keep this game hopefully competitive at the beginning, and then things get a little bit sour. But if we're looking at fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, the past 7 weeks, the Buffalo Bills 29th overall and 26th in the red zone, allow 180 yards to wide receivers, 1.3 TDs a game. So that is the concern there. I don't expect much out of Skylar Thompson, though. All right, there's not a lot for me to have faith in there, especially in his first playoff game in Buffalo. Maybe could he have one big play to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? Sure, of course he could. But is it going to be enough to put up upwards of 20 fantasy points? I do not think so. So in our player pool, we're going to be sticking with Josh Allen. We're going to be going with Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins. All right, let's move on to the running backs. First up at the running back position, we are going to go with Saquon Barkley in his first playoff game. It's going to be super exciting to see him finally get that opportunity to shine under the bright lights against these Minnesota Vikings. Let's see his last performance against the Minnesota Vikings. That was a couple weeks ago. He had 14 for 84, got in the end zone, and had 8 for 10 for 49 yards, 27 fantasy points from Saquon Barkley in that game against the Minnesota Vikings. So can we get a repeat performance? Sure, we could. All right, because the running backs against the Minnesota Vikings have been pretty well off. If we're looking at fantasy points allowed to RBs, Minnesota Vikings are 27th and 23rd overall in that red zone. So 103 yards a game, 4.2 yards a carry, 0.9 TDs a game. So we should be seeing a very good performance from Saquon Barkley to keep him and the New York Giants close in this game against the Minnesota Vikings. So I love him at his price there. Have no problem paying up for him. Joe Mixon is the next guy we're going to speak about at 6,800. He might be a stay away from in this particular game against Baltimore. If we're looking at Joe Mixon, Draftkings points by game log, the past 10 games, they tend to keep him under 15 points and under, all right? So we have a lot of games here that are under 10 points as well, 9.7, 9.7, 5.9. Then we have a lot of games under 15. We got 11.8 and 11.9. He's only at pretty much worthy of his price range. Only 2 games, so 31.5 and 20.1. Other than that, we're looking at around a range of about 10 fantasy points a game from Joe Mixon. All right, so in this particular game, you're paying up for 6,800 running back. He needs to come through. I don't think he does in this type of game environment. I think we can look at some other guys at the running back position, all right, for that Sunday slate. Dalvin Cook is going to be one of those guys we can look at 7,100, all right? I think this is going to be a bread and butter play here for the Minnesota Vikings. Establish that run against the Giants defense, and then work off the play action from there to Justin Jefferson, to TJ Hockenson, and Adam Thielen. If we're looking at fantasy points allowed to running backs, the Giants have been absolutely putrid. Yes, it says 22nd overall, 21st in the red zone, but look at the rushing stats allowed. 126 yards a game, 5.1 yards a carry, and 1 TD a game allowed to opposing running backs. And Dalvin Cook there and Alexander Madison, this should bode well for both of them in this game. Previously in week 16, they did go to the run. He had an okay performance. 4.6 yards to carry. That's good. I think they could have continued with the running game as well, but it got a little bit carried away because they got up so big, and then the Giants came back late in that game. But we saw a positive game script from Dalvin Cook. 64 yards rushing, 3 receptions, 13 yards in that game. We need him to get in the end zone in this particular. I think he does, because of those stats are screaming towards me, and we're going to go with Dalvin Cook at 7,100. So we got two high price running backs that we do like, and we do not like Joe Mixon. All right, next running back we're going to talk about will be Jeff Wilson Jr. If we're looking for a salary save type of running back, we can consider Jeff Wilson. All right, Raheem Mostert is going to be out in this game. All right. Okay, Mostert did see, a broken thumb, I believe so. Yep, a broken thumb, and he will most likely won't play, all right? It says questionable. We'll see. We got to follow news. But if Mostert is out, you could lean towards Jeff Wilson at 5,400. He's going to see the bulk of the carries and the bulk of the receptions, all right? He catches the football as well. He was that type of dynamic running back with the San Francisco 49ers, and he's been playing very well with the Miami Dolphins as well. So if the Dolphins need to keep this game close, they're gonna have to utilize that run game. Jeff Wilson's gonna have to come up big for them to even have a squinch of a chance, but we do not think so. All right, but he is gonna see a high volume. All right, so 5,400. Looking for a punt running back, you could go towards him. Next running back we're going to speak about will be J.K. Dobbins, all right? They gave him a rest in Week 18 going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, and this is their bread and butter here. J.K. Dobbins is their workhorse running back, and I have no problem going towards him. This is a spot I do like. I do see him getting in the end zone in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Is this a great matchup? Not. I did say that this is going to be an under game, but someone is going to have to provide some upside, some burst, some life in this team. And I think despite whatever quarterback that they do start, J.K. Dobbins has been showing some signs that he is the old self. All right. In week 14, 21 fantasy points, popping off 8 yards to carry against Cleveland. Another in-division matchup. 16.8, popping off 9.6 yards to carry. He's been super, super efficient. This is why I believe they're going to lean on him to give the Ravens a chance in this game against the Bengals until we know what quarterback is going to start. J.K. Dobbins has been outstanding the past 4 weeks, rushing efficiency-wise. That is going to be the key. All right, so J.K. Dobbins at 5,700 is another guy we can look towards as a salary saver. And for the running backs of the Buffalo Bills, we got Devin Singletary and we got James Cook. The one I'm telling you guys to play will be James Cook. All right, Devin Singletary has lost a lot of work towards James Cook. If this game is a blowout, they're going to be playing the young rookie here in James Cook in cleanup time, okay? Getting all the last-minute receptions and yards and possibly even touchdowns. James Cook, if we're looking for a true cheap running back that has some upside here in the third and fourth quarter, you can see him popping off some major fantasy points here against this Miami Dolphins team. And the Buffalo Bills are not going to let away, or they're going to keep pounding, all right? So at 4,800, I'm going to lean towards James Cook, and that's how cheap I would go at that running back position. Let's go to the wide receivers. Next up will be the wide receivers here. We're going to pair the quarterbacks I spoke with their wide receivers, all right? So Josh Allen, obviously, we're going to be looking at Stephon Diggs at 7,700 in salary. He finally got a touchdown. He had a little drought there of 3 weeks in a row without getting the TD. I expect things to get clicking again in this game against Miami. We should see another 20-point plus performance from Stephon Diggs. He's going to lean on his bell cow wide receiver. Love Diggs at 7,700 in salary. All right. If we're looking at secondary options for the Buffalo Bills, the two options we can consider, we got Gabe Davis. All right. Could that big Gabe Davis game come in the playoffs? It did previously against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. So He's always in the pool and has huge upside because we know what he's capable of, popping off 1, 2, 3 touchdowns in a game. Gabe Davis can do it. So could it happen in this one? Yes, it could. We're going to put limited exposure on him because he is very, very volatile. All right. We got 6.9, a 6.1, and 9.5. But we also have big games. We got 21 against Minnesota. We got 35 against Pittsburgh, 16 against Kansas City. So Gabe Davis is that type of seesaw type of player, not really reliable. Diggs is the reliable guy. Gabe Davis comes under. So if you want to set a nice, decent exposure of Gabe Davis, I have no problem going towards him in this game, because I do see a myriad of Buffalo players going off in this game. All right, so I like him at 4,900. The next wide receiver for Buffalo that you could consider, if we're looking at some other guys, would be between Isaiah McKenzie and Cole Beasley. All right, that's if you're really, really desperate. I don't see a need going this far, but we do want to mention, if you have around anything under 4K in salary at that flex position and under, you need someone that can provide some upside. McKenzie, if he's out, then you can go to Cole Beasley. If he's in, then you can go to McKenzie at 3,400. One of those two could pop off. All right, if you're looking for a salary save type of wide receiver. Okay, next grouping of wide receivers we can go to will be in this Giants and Minnesota game, and we're going to look at Justin Jefferson here at 8,600. Loved him at his price. They're going to play man-to-man, all right? That's what the Giants do. They blitz, they play man-to-man, and they're going to leave. Unfortunately, they're going to leave him open. So this should be a absolutely smash spot for Justin Jefferson in this game. Previously, he has 34 fantasy points against the Giants with 133 yards and a touchdown. This is what I'm talking about, all right? If you're going to leave one-on-one coverage against Justin Jefferson, you're going to get killed. It's going to be over, all right? So if they want to play that game, let's play that game. And we're going to play Justin Jefferson at $8,600 in salary. Other guys, if they want to switch it up, other guys that they can look towards, we're going to go with KJ Osborne at 4,600. He's been emerging over Adam Thielen. I think that he's technically the number 2 wide receiver in this offense. You see him with high production the past 5 weeks. We had 10 of 16 or 157 in the touchdown. We had another touchdown against Detroit. We had 14 fantasy points. We had another touchdown against Green Bay. We had 18 fantasy points, and he had 117 yards against the Chicago Bears. So KJ Osborne is looking like emerging stud here, opposite of Justin Jefferson in this offense. Yes, they have the veteran in Adam Thielen, but they've been waiting for someone to add in this trio here. And KJ Osborne is looking like he can take over once Adam Thielen decides to retire. So I like him at 4,600. As well, if you want to save a little salary. And then Adam Thielen is under him at 4,500. So going with allocation of your salary, that's how you decide which of these wide receivers you would go towards, okay? So if we're looking for a number 2 option with the Vikings, who we're going to go with? We're going to go with KJ Osborne, all right? He's at 4,600. There's most likely no need to go towards Adam Thielen at 4,500. That's only $100 in salary. I don't see a situation where $100 is really like pulling and tangling. Just switch your defense, okay? The next grouping of wide receivers we're going to look at will be the New York Giants, okay? The New York Giants here in a game script where we might see Daniel Jones throw for a very high attempt of passing attempts. He's going to look towards Isaiah Hodgins at 4,100 and Richie James Jr. Darius Slayton technically is the number 1, but he has not been seeing high production as the other 2 guys. Darius Slayton is the deep route wide receiver. That's why you see all these longs. If you're looking at his game log, a 32-yard long, a 37, a 55, a 44. If you believe he can convert one of those deep passes into a touchdown, then you would go towards him at 4,200. If you want someone more consistent, we got Isaiah Hodgins here at 4,100. It didn't matter what quarterback is starting. He's been very, very productive the past 5 weeks. All these games over double-digit fantasy points. 4 out of the last 5 14.2, 22.9, 15.8, and 15.4. He's emerged as the true number one in this offense. I think so. And look at the touchdowns. 4 out of the last 5 games with a touchdown. If we're looking for a Giants wide receiver, the number one wide receiver, I think it's going to be Isaiah Hodgins, all right? The next guy we can go towards is Richie James, okay? So he's another guy we can look towards. He's been seeing a very high target volume from Daniel Jones, okay? Week 17, 7. Week 16, 11, 5, and 9, those last past weeks, in week 14 and week 15. So the guy that's been moving the chains, getting nice catches and using yards after contact has been Richie James. So this is the tandem we're going to go towards as a salary saver for wide receivers in this Sunday slate. Richie James is seeing a nice value, and Isaiah Hodgins. I like both of those guys, okay? So the next game we're going to talk about will be the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals. I believe that game is going to be an under. So we do have to touch upon their studs, all right? Jamar Chase is there. He's going to be seeing Marlon Humphrey coverage. Marcus Peters most likely will be back in this game. They're going to be highly motivated, and he's going to see a high target volume. So as you can see, double-digit targets in each and every game. Okay, 13, 12, 13, 15. If you want to pay up for a Bengals wide receiver, we got Jamar Chase at 8,100. All right, for T. Higgins, he is currently with an illness. Okay, that's why he has that Q tag. Hopefully, he's going to be 100%. We're going to have to choose one of these two guys. I'm leaning more towards Jamar Chase. If we're picking one Bengal wide receiver, T. Higgins, he's under the weather. We're going to see how he goes along with these practices on Thursday and Friday. If he continues to get worse, then you can look more towards Tyler Boyd. But right now, he has that illness, and you need to pay attention to the news for T. Higgins, okay? All right. And if anything happens to Higgins, like I said, Tyler Boyd is that guy that's going to be getting those targets with him out, all right? At $4,000 salary, he has some upside, okay? He does become a factor in this offense. If the Ravens defense is going to focus on T. Higgins and Chase, then you got Tyler Boyd flying under the radar with possibility of getting you 20 fantasy points. He's done it so many times already this year, and he's a very, very talented slot wide receiver for this offense. So if you're looking for another punt wide receiver, Tyler Boyd could be your guy. All right. And for Baltimore, we're going to stay away from that. Okay. I do not want a Baltimore wide receiver. If we're choosing anyone off Baltimore receiving wise, we'll get to that tight end position very, very soon. All right. And then last but not least, you got the Miami Dolphins. We got Skylar Thompson as the quarterback. So it's going to be a very ugly situation here with a ton of talent at wide receiver, but not a quarterback to get the ball to them. And technically, it is a good matchup. So if we want to choose one of these guys here, Tyreek Hill, you're going to have to take a shot and bite the bullet, all right, between both of them. Do I know which one exactly? No. All right. You got Tyreek Hill. That is a major speedster. It would have to be a short type of route where Tyreek Hill gets in space and then he creates after that. He always has that type of option and upside to get a short pass and take it to the house. All right. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of these two pop off one big run and get in the end zone. Okay. So I definitely want to let you know about that, but we're going to lean more towards the Buffalo guys, the Giants, and the Minnesota guys, all right? But if you want to take a one-off on one of the Miami guys, Tyreek Hill would be your best bet, all right? Let's go on to the tight ends. On to our last position, that is the tight end spot, and we're going to start off at the top with Mark Andrews. I think Mark Andrews could be a lock for Sunday slate, all right? Strong finish to the season. Finally, a bright spot from Mark Andrews. 9 receptions, 9 targets, and 100 yards. That's the Mark Andrews that we are expected all season long. All right, he was nagged with an injury earlier in the season, came back, and now after this performance, I think they can get the ball rolling. And if they have an opportunity against these Bengals, it's going to be J.K. Dobbins number 1 and Mark Andrews number 2. He's a mismatch against anyone on the field. We're talking about an elite tight end alongside of Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews is that guy. No matter what quarterback is at for the Ravens, it doesn't matter if it's Tyler Huntley or if it's Lamar Jackson. Okay, so let's look at some previous games. We already know how Lamar Jackson plays with Mark Andrews. Let's look at some previous games on Mark Andrews with Tyler Huntley. The crazy thing about this, Mark Andrews was a beast with Tyler Huntley in the previous season in 2021. All right. He struggled here in 2022 in the middle here, where he had 7.5, 6.1, 3.7, 9.4, and 11. Other than that, we have a 22, a 16.5, and a 14.9 from this season. The season prior, where Tyler Huntley started, look at these numbers. Okay, we have two bad performances here, 6.7 to 7.8. But other than that, we're talking about 17.6, 17.8, 15.3, 31.5, and 38.6 with Mark Andrews linking up with Tyler Huntley. All right, this could come back to fruition here if we get Lamar Jackson out and Tyler Huntley, who got a limited practice in. We can get that connection back. Okay, the upside is there. I saw a very good glimpse of Mark Andrews in that Pittsburgh game. I love him at 5,200 if you want to go towards a tight end. All right, a lot of people are going to stay away from that. They don't believe in the Ravens and all this and all that. That's okay. That's okay. We're going to go with the best talent on the field, and that is Mark Andrews. Next guy we're going to talk about will be TJ Hockenson. He's in a good spot against the New York Giants at 5,100. And it's crazy because they priced him very close to each other. A lot of people are just going to go towards Hockenson and leave Mark Andrews alone. I wouldn't shy away from Mark Andrews. That is the better talent at tight end. All right. Giants are historically bad against tight ends. Let's see how they have been doing the last past 7 weeks. We're going to check fantasy points allowed to that tight end position. We're going to flip this around. And these New York Giants have been poor. Like I said, yet again, 25th overall, 31st in the red zone, 10.8 fantasy points per game to that position. All right, so we can go towards Hockenson. You can go double tight end in these lineup builds, okay? Maybe you want to stack up a wide receiver, go a little bit cheaper with and go double tight end there. I have no problem going towards that. That would be contrarian going to tight ends. Hockenson is in a great spot here, and he is the number 2 option in this offense. Look at these two games, okay? Week 17 and week 16, okay? They didn't start their starters against Chicago. You want to look at that. You got 28 targets in those two games against the Giants and the Green Bay Packers. He absolutely smashed the Giants in that game. 2 touchdowns, 38 fantasy points TJ Hockenson put up against the Giants. So you want to go double tight end? You want to lean more towards Hockenson? Fine by me. I love both of these tight ends high up. All right. Next guy, we can talk about Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox is that X factor for the Buffalo Bills here. He's been on a roll 4 straight weeks with a touchdown and now going up against the Miami Dolphins. He already put up over 20 fantasy points in week 15 against the Dolphins. Could he do it again? Yes, he can at $4,000 in salary. You pick your preference here. All these tight ends, the first 3 I just named, are in very, very good spots here. And all with it depends on your allocation of your salary. Whatever you have left, if you like Hockenson more, if you like Andrews more, or if you like Dawson Knox, all right, you can get creative here, and most likely you can even pick 2. I would advise towards doing that as well. But these first 3 tight ends are in smash spots for the Sunday slate. Next guy, we can talk about Isaiah Likely. He's the backup tight end in this format here. Obviously, he got run because they sat Mark Andrews in this game, so I don't expect much out of him with Mark Andrews back and healthy. If we're looking at a punt tight end down low, we got between Mike Gesicki here at 3,200 and Hayden Hurst. All right. Both of these two guys, he's a former Baltimore Raven here, so you got a little bit of revenge there. He came through in week 18, 4 for 14, had 5 targets in that game. If you're looking for someone below cheap, you spend up at every other position. You need someone to punt with at the tight end position. Hayden Hurst could be your guy at 3,100. or you can go with Mike Gesicki here at 3,200. Other than that, I would want to stay away from anyone else. I highly advise you pay up for tight end, all right? Hawkinson, Andrews, and Knox. Those are going to be the three guys that are in smash spots in this game for Sunday. So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetJetsD, and I'll be back with another video very soon, all right? Peace out, guys.